I just want to do a quick review for your test because there's a certain way that some of the questions are posed, and I want to make sure that you understand what to do and you're not lost when you get your paper. To start with, you do have 3 circle questions. Your review on WebAssign should be sufficient for those, so there's nothing weird with your circle questions. Just want to remind you when you get to the part about increasing, decreasing, and constant, remember this down here. You have to just put your answer with the x values, okay? So x values only, and you're going to be giving me intervals, okay? So like on this first problem, you see it breaks here and it breaks there. Well, you need to know those x values. So let's see here, that's 1, 2, 3. So that's -3. And then this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 4. So those are my x values. So it's going up this little chunk right here. So from -infinity up to -3, it's going up, but it's also going up here. So I've got to start over and do 4 up to +infinity. So you're perfectly fine having 2 intervals, and of course decreasing is in between them. So you got -3 to 4. My pen's not right where I want it, and there's not anything here, so you're going to put D and E. But that's a good example of what you need to do. But don't get upset if there's actually 2 sections that work for you. Now, if you get a max-min question, and you will, there'll be 3 of them, just like that other thing had 3 parts. You're only going to give me y values, and it's not an interval. You just state what that y value is. So let me just draw a picture, because I don't have one that's preloaded. Say we did this right here. Okay, so that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we're going to call that's 6. Okay, we're going to say that's 1. And this is going down here, and this is going up here. All right, I tell you, okay, good enough. You're going to have 2 questions. You're going to say, what's the relative max? Well, you want to know what is the highest spot. Well, the highest spot is when y is 6. So over here on the side, and it's going to be in a table. All right, so you're going to have a big table and do like this. It's going to say relative min. Okay, so the max was 6, and the min, the little value, the y value is 1. Now, if you have a graph that did like this, say this sucker came through and it went doo-doo, and it did it again. Well, you would also need to tell me what this number is. So say that's 7. So he would go there, and this one is, what is that, 4? So it's okay to list more than one of them, okay? Just make sure they're y values only. Now, this is the part I really wanted to show you just so that you didn't get weirded out with the way it's presented. I'm going to ask you to graph. Now, I'm not fixing to do all of these. I'm just going to pick 1 or 2 of them. Okay, so like on this first one, when it says parent function, that's those things that, remember, you're matching stuff, the x cubed, the x squared, absolute value of x, and all those. That's what you're putting down. So this is an x cubed function. So your brain's supposed to be thinking, oh, yeah, he's doing the squiggle. Now, I need you to write down the vertex. That's going to help a lot when you go to graph. So remember, you change the sign, keep the sign. Now, reflection, all I'm wanting you to write is yes or no. That's it. So look up front and see if it's got a negative. If there's not a negative, you're going to put, nope, not a reflection. So this is real quick. You can go through all of them. That one has a negative, so you'd say, yep. This one, it's positive, so nope, not reflected. Now, this stretch or compression business, on the test, I actually have an A in parentheses. Okay, so I'm just wanting that A value that's out front. So on this first problem, that's an understood 1. That's it. On this first one, that's a -2. On this one, that's a 1/4. So I just want the number out front. You know, that thing that acts like slope. That's all I'm after. Then you should be able to go through and graph them all. So say on this first one, I need to start at -4, -2. So scoot over 4, and then go down 2. All right, now that acts as my vertex, but this is a squiggle, so my vertex is that little flat spot. My A value is 1, so that means I'm going to go up 1 over 1. He's going to go through that point. Down 1 over 1, he'll go through that one. And so I'll put my little squiggle in, and there we go. Now, I do ask you about domain and range. But domain, this thing gets fatter and fatter and fatter. Range, it gets taller and taller and taller. Okay? Let me shut this door real quick. Okay. just so we can do some weird domain and range, let's go to this third one. Parent function is square root of x, vertex is 3, 4. So I'm going to come over to 3, and I'm going to go up to 4. I start there. Now this is 1/4. So remember that business where we said we were going to go up 1/4 of a block and go over a block, and all you're doing is eyeballing it. So don't get bent out of shape about it, okay? Just eyeball it. But your domain, because you know that this point is 3, 4, your domain, remember, is x. So we start at 3 and we go forever. Range is y, so we start at 4 and we go forever. Okay. Now, there's 3 different ways I'm going to ask you questions like that. So this one says, let me give you a description. You give me the function. Now, nobody needs to pass out, but this is the biggest hint I can give you. If you want to do well, that's the first thing you do is you take the description and you write down what would the vertex be, and then it helps you build the function. So I need these 2 right here, the ones that say shift. That tells me what I need to know. So if I'm going to shift 2 units down, that means the y value goes down 2. If I'm doing 3 units to the left, that means go to -3. Now, if that's my vertex, I can come in here and I can write whatever function it is. Now, I'm building it off of an x cubed. Now, when it says it's vertical shrink factor, y'all don't worry about these words up here. This is just the a value. A is. So, A is. And vertical blah, blah, blah. A is. So, that's that front number. So, I'm going to come in, I'm going to put 1/4 in front. Then in parentheses, remember I'm going to take this number and I'm going to change the sign. I'm going to put the little cube out there and I'm going to put the -2 at the back. Alright, so for this one, real quick, it says shift 3 units down. So my y value goes down 3. It didn't say diddly squat about left or right. So I'll put a 0. Okay, now it does say reflected, so I need a negative on that. So that's going to be a -3. And then I've got absolute value. Well, there's nothing in there with the x, so it's just absolute value of x minus 3. So I'm putting that on the back end. All right, so then my front number, I got a 4, but it is reflected, so that's a -4. I'm doing the square root of x. All right, the only thing it told me was 5 units to the left, so my little vertex is going to be -5 and 0. So the -5 goes inside with the x, and you change the sign. There's nothing on the outside for the 0. So that's our function. Now, then you have some where I give you the picture and I ask you for the function. Now, here, please beware. Don't get distracted by the dots. The dots on these graphs are just x and y intercepts. I take these pictures off of Desmos, and for some reason they put little gray dots, they put little dots wherever it hits the x-axis or the y-axis. That's not necessarily what you need, like especially this first picture right over here, okay? I don't want to know what that is. I need to know where the middle of this squiggle is. That's what I'm interested in. Forget that thing. So don't get distracted by that dot. I need that point right there, the little flat spot. So that's 3 and -1. See, once again, I'm writing down my vertex. Okay? My parent function is x cubed. My vert cube, that's an ugly 3. Okay, cube. All right, so that's 3 and -1. Is it reflected? No. So that's just yes, no question. What about the stretch? Now, you got to look up here. So from this dot, when's the next time it goes through crosshairs? Right there. So basically, when you go over one block, how many did it take to go up? So that's 3. So this thing is 3, and then I've got x minus 3 cubed, and then I got the -1 at the back. Now over here, my parent function is x squared. Well, my vertex is, let's see here, what is that? -2, 0. Okay, so -2, 0. It is reflected, so yes, yes, yes. Stretch, okay, when I go over one block, how many? It just went down one block. So that is a -1. So I got y equals, and you can put the 1 or you can just put the negative, it don't matter. But I got to do x plus 2 in there. Got to put my square out there. Nothing goes on the outside because that's a 0. But just try to write the vertexes down first, and that'll help. You got all the stuff with the function operations, and so you know the add, subtract, multiply, divide. Remember when you're subtracting, put it in parentheses. At the end, you've got this inverse function stuff. Now, you have a question that looks like this. Verify that these are inverses. That's when you have to do that crap like those WebAssign problems, where you stick one of them inside the other one, and you flip it around and you do it the other way. Both of these things should reduce down to being equal to x. So if I start with f, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to put g inside of it. Okay, well that's x minus 2 over 3. Everything should reduce out with algebra. So these 3's cancel, and I've got x minus 2 plus 2. The 2's cancel, and I got x. That's what I want. All right, now if I come over here, I'm going to start with g, and I'm going to put f inside of it. Okay, now keep in mind that fraction bar is a grouping symbol, so all this stuff's got to be done first. You don't really need the parentheses, so you can drop them. That means these two cancel. So I got 3x over 3. These cancel. I got an x, and I'm done. But that's what you're needing to do when it says verify. Okay, the other part with the inverses is when I'm going to give you one and say I give something like this, and this is where you go through that 4-step process. Put your y in, swap your x and y, solve for your new y. Okay, so that's x minus 2 over 3, and then give him a new name. So don't forget to give him a new name. Okay, that should help. You may have to watch this a couple of times to make sure you got your brain wrapped around it, but y'all please go through that. Okay, good luck on the test.